And only on the record tonight, confronting the Reverend Jeremiah Wright, there is new controversy surrounding the Chicago pastor who mentored President Obama. Well, that is until the 2008 presidential campaign. Reverend Wright, known for making these very inflammatory comments like this one.
Not God bless America, God damn America, that's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human. God damn America.
So here's the question. Why in the world would the Chicago Teachers Union invite such a controversial speaker to their event today? In minutes, you're going to hear what Reverend Wright told the teachers, and then you will hear from former Congressman Allen West what he thinks. But right now, on the record's Griff Jenkins' very strange encounter with Reverend Wright in Chicago.
Reverend Wright, quick question. Quick question, Reverend Wright. Could you just comment on your speech?
Sir.
You mentioned the president's drone policy. Could you just give us...
I'm the director of security for the building. I'm going to ask you to stop. I'm going to ask you to stop.
Can we just ask him to comment?
I'm going to ask you to stop. That's what I'm going to ask you to do. We're a community center. We have members here. I'm asking you to stop.
Can we just ask him a quick question?
No, you can't.
Okay.
I'm asking you to stop.
Reverend, will you just give us a comment on the policy that you mentioned? The president's policy?
You're the media, you need to go that way. We have classes, we have members. I don't need the media.
Was invited here.
I understand they were invited.
Reverend, will you just comment on your policy for us?
Reverend Wright asked not to have any more interviews. I'm asking you to leave, else I'll call the police and have them escort you.
He invited us here, and then he refused to talk to us.
But he said at this moment he's not having any other questions.
And Griff Jenkins joins us live from Chicago. And Griff, that didn't quite work out as well as you had planned.
Hi, Greta. Well, after being invited to his speech, Reverend Wright completely ignored us, all of us in the media, and kicked our cameras out when he gave his speech, for which we found out why: the content of the speech. Reverend Wright wasted no time launching into his incendiary remarks, many of which were directed at President Obama, saying things like, "We need to tell the truth about our politicians and their policies." He used lines, and I quote, "King said, I have a dream. Barack said, I have a drone." He went on to describe a kill list that President Obama looks at every Tuesday and chooses who he's going to kill. So this audience that was at this event, about 200 or 300 folks made up of local teachers and some local pastors here in Chicago, were treated to a diatribe about a government, their government, that Reverend Wright says is based on racism, militarism, and capitalism. Greta?
So why the reemergence of Reverend Wright, and why by the Teachers Union? What was sort of the purpose of this? Was this a paid speech or to fire up the teachers? What was the point?
Well, that's a good question, since we weren't able to directly ask Reverend Wright, but one would assume that it's because the Teachers Union, the largest of its kind in the city, has a long-standing rift with Mayor Rahm Emanuel. And so they would hope that Reverend Wright would come and preach his message of social justice, and that would translate back to these churches, hence the invitation to the pastors as the Teachers Union gears up for a fight in November with Mayor Rahm Emanuel.
Griff, he said pretty incendiary things about President Obama, making fun of him, saying, I have a drone, in comparison to Martin Luther King with I have a dream. Did he say anything at least complimentary or anything good about President Obama? Show any sort of sense of admiration for him, or that he thought he'd done a good job doing anything?
No, there were no complimentary remarks whatsoever. Again, Greta, we haven't seen Reverend Wright in a while, and he is back, and he's just the same as always, fired up, very incendiary. And President Obama was not the only one for which was attracted a lot of criticism. So did Abraham Lincoln, the Constitution, Bill Cosby, and the current Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan. He wondered how he even got his job.
Well, anyway, thank you, Griff. And former Congressman Allen West joins us. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you, Greta.
Well, your thoughts about Reverend Wright?
Well, obviously, Reverend Wright wants to make himself relevant once again, and you have to come out and say something absolutely outrageous. You invite the media to come in, and then you shun the media. But look, we're talking about him tonight. I'm sure other outlets are going to talk about him. So President Obama last week had to deal with the excerpts from former Secretary of Defense Gates' book, and now he has to deal with these comments being made by Reverend Wright.
Well, these are particularly wicked. I mean, aligning him, making this sort of with Martin Luther King's, very famous statement and speech, I have a dream that inspired so many, and he says Barack, meaning President Obama, said, I have a drone. I have a dream and I have a drone.
Well, you, of course, have the celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King coming up this month, so I'm sure that that's what he's trying to do, is stir that controversy and draw that separation, that delineation between King and also between Barack Obama. But really, the focus should have been, look at the unemployment rate in the black community. Look at the out-of-wedlock births in the black community, 72%. Look at what is happening as far as the graduation rates for black males and the incarceration rates. That's what he should have been talking about. But this is just political grandstand.
Well, it seems he's still carrying a grudge for the president.
Oh,
I mean, because if he's invited by the teachers, you might think he'd talk about education, about teaching, and maybe how to improve things. But instead, he's a little fixated on the president.
Well, he certainly is not going to talk about school choice in the black community in front of the Chicago Teachers Union.
Is he? I mean, any thoughts about why the teachers union would pick him?
You know, just to get headlines. That's the only reason why. Bring him in, let him say something outrageous, incendiary, and get some headlines, draw some attention for whatever reason. We just don't know.
But wouldn't you think he'd want to use his platform to, I mean, he's got such a huge platform. The fact that we're covering him, we sent somebody out to Chicago. Wouldn't you think, that with such a big, powerful platform, that he might want to use it for something a little more potent than just taking a couple grudge slaps back at the president?
But see, that's the rational person's thought process. You're dealing with a person that is completely irrational, and he is a scorned woman.
And did you, getting back to the old Reverend Wright dispute, your thoughts on whether the president knew he was saying some of those things?
I don't think he did. I think, once again, he was caught, you know, kind of ambushed, because the president, of course, today was in Raleigh, North Carolina.
But I mean the earlier ones that he said he disavowed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure that he has some semblance of knowing what is happening. Look, nothing seems to be very well coming out of Chicago these days, between Rahm Emanuel, between Louis Farrakhan, Jeremiah Wright, you know, David Axelrod, Barack Obama, Saul Alinsky. So there's something bad in the water there in Chicago.
All right. Well, David Axelrod's always been very good to me, so I'll give him I'll take him out of your list anyway. Or at least I will. Congressman, there's new outrage though over the IRS targeting scandal. The FBI will reportedly not file any criminal charges, and the Tea Party, well, they're furious. Your reaction?
Well, this is unconscionable. I mean, first of all, you have to look at the fact that really this was not a very thorough investigation done whatsoever. It was done in the Civil Rights Division, was not done in the Criminal Division. And, of course, I forget her, Barbara, I forget her last name. The lawyer that was brought in was a donor to President Barack Obama. That's kind of like asking the Muslim Brotherhood to investigate Benghazi. So for them to all of a sudden come up and say we're not going to have any charges, there was some wrongdoing. I saw those letters that were sent out to these groups, and the president said he was going to get to the bottom of this. Now, what this is showing is that there's a sense of lawlessness in this administration that, you know, places their ideology, their goals and objectives above that of protecting the American people.
You know, but the president did say he was going to get to the bottom of it in May, but what I didn't quite understand is that what happened is that by July, I think he called it a phony scandal. And
yes, he did.
Because a lot of these people who are sort of waiting to find out whether to be tax exempt, and frankly, it's sort of scary when the IRS sends you letters, even if it's about your tax exempt status and not your personal, is that he called it phony.
And if the chief executive officer of the United States of America, who is the head of the executive branch, says that this is a phony scandal, then what type of climate is he allowing to permeate down through that agency, the IRS? Then if the president says it's a phony scandal, we really don't need to put any emphasis or resources behind this. So I think, you know, kind of indirectly, he kind of put out the, you know, the direction. This is not a big deal, really.
You know, the one thing that a lot of people miss on this investigation is that a lot of people didn't get a denial. They just their tax exempt request went into a black hole. At least if you get denied, there's an appellate procedure.
Absolutely.
If they just sit on it forever, you never get an answer.
And there's a lot of intimidating processes in there as well, and that is clear and evident. And again, just flip the pancake, and let's say that this was a Republican administration and these were liberal progressive groups that were targeted by the IRS. You hear the New York Times, the Washington Post, you hear everyone screaming and yelling. And if a Republican president had said this was a phony scandal, they would have run him out of Washington, D.C.
All right, stay with us, Congressman. Straight ahead, bad news for President Obama and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Are they going to regret these words?
With this endless parade of distractions and political posturing and phony scandals, Washington's taken its eye off the ball.
Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
Well, a Senate panel releasing a blunt bipartisan report on Benghazi today. That latest coming up. Plus, a new war movie drawing crowds and drawing controversy.
Senior Taliban commander Shaw killed 20 Marines last week. 20. Going in with a...
Why is lone survivor coming under attack? Find out next.
Marcus.